Welcome to Rao Online. Today we are going to learn on how to approach glomerular diseases. During our earlier session, we saw briefly an overview, a generalized overview or a broad overview to all the glomerular diseases that were present. And today we are going to look a little more closely, a little more in detail at the specifics of the different glomerular diseases, at the specifics of the different conditions which could affect the renal glomerulus, thereby causing a glomerular syndrome. So today I really need you all to hang on to each and every word of mine, because today's session is going to be filled with a lot of facts and there's no other way to wade through the glomerular diseases. Now, just to recap a few important points from the previous session, we saw that this was the glomerular basement membrane. So the glomerular filtration barrier is made of the endothelial fenestration, the endothelial cells surrounding the capillary, which will have these fenestrations which are about 60 to 80 nanometer wide, and then that is surrounded by the glomerular basement membrane, which has very tiny pores of the size 2 to 8 nanometer, and then you have this podocyte layer with all these food processes, and they have something called the filtration slits, the size of which will range between 20 to 30 nanometers. So this is what we saw. So these three components together constitute the glomerular filtration barrier: the endothelial layer, the glomerular basement membrane, and the podocytes with the food processes. Now, just to recap at the important or the salient features of a patient with glomerular disease, patients often present with glomerular hematuria. Now, glomerular hematuria is often microscopic. In some conditions like IgA nephropathy and sickle cell disease, it may be macroscopic or gross hematuria as well. The patients have an active urinary sediment with RBC CAS. The patient's urine examination is significant for acanthocytes, which are going to be more than 5% to be significant in glomerular hematuria, and dysmorphic RBCs are going to be at least more than 75%. And then we have something called the glomerular proteinuria. Now, proteinuria we saw during our earlier session can be tubular, can be overflow proteinuria, can be secretory proteinuria, seen often following obstructive kidney diseases. So, glomerular proteinuria is a sustained, selective, significant proteinuria. So, when I say sustained, it's not transient, it is present consistently. When I say selective, I mean that a large proportion of the proteinuria is going to be albumin. The albumin protein ratio is going to be more than 0.4. And the proteinuria is going to be significant. So, more than 500 milligram in a 24-hour urine sample. A lot of the causes of benign or transient proteinuria like fever and exercise, in such instances the quantity of protein excreted in the urine will be less than 500 milligram per 24-hour sample. And then broadly you can classify the glomerular syndromes into either a nephritic syndrome. So I stands for inflammation. So there's an inflammation of the glomerular filtration barrier. Patients present with hematuria, non-nephrotic proteinuria. Proteinuria more than 3 gram per day is called as a nephrotic proteinuria. So here the proteinuria will be between 500 milligrams to 3 gram per day. And then the patients are going to have hypertension, edema, and plus or minus renal failure and oliguria. Patients with nephrotic syndrome present with a very heavy proteinuria, more than 3 gram per day, and hence they have hypoalbuminemia, they have hyperlipidemia, they have significant edema, they have hypercoagulability because of the loss of antithrombin 3 in the urine. Then they lose a lot of immunoglobulins in the urine, and therefore they also have immune dysfunction, and patients can present with recurrent, more severe infections. What is the gold standard in diagnosis of glomerular diseases? It is the renal biopsy, which we will look at through light microscopy from the immunofluorescence perspective and from the electron microscopy perspective. So this is what has to be remembered, because we will be discussing each of these syndromes, looking at whether the patient is having hematuria, whether the patient is having proteinuria, is it non-nephrotic or a nephrotic range proteinuria, does the patient fit into a predominantly nephritic syndrome or a nephrotic syndrome, and what are the renal biopsy features. This is what we will be discussing for each syndrome moving forward. Now again, just to recap, nephritic syndrome refers to the inflammation of the glomerular filtration barrier. Nephrotic syndrome refers to O for foot processes or podocytes. So there is a problem in the podocytes, and that leads to a change in the glomerular charge barrier. So what is this? This looks like an a symbol of the Olympics, right? What I'm trying to tell you is that although there may be many tournaments, one of the tournaments that receives maximum global attention is actually the Olympics. Am I trying to tell you that the glomerular diseases are something like the Olympics as compared to all the other renal diseases? Because glomerular diseases instantly get a lot more attention because of the severity, because of the rapidity in which some of these conditions present, and because of its more serious implications. Is it that what I'm trying to tell you? No, that is not what I'm trying to tell you. What I'm trying to tell you is that although we saw that glomerular diseases can be broadly divided into nephritic and nephrotic syndrome, and that has how the traditional teaching has been. Often we do not have a clear-cut distinction. There are a lot of diseases where there may be an overlap between these two syndromes, and in addition there are several other glomerular syndromes which have evolved over time, like the pulmonary renal syndrome, the basement membrane syndrome, and the glomerular vascular syndrome. So we will be looking at each one of these syndromes in detail, and hopefully by the end of the presentation we'll be able to identify the conditions and we'll be able to segregate them into their specific baskets. We'll be able to identify the conditions where there are going to be an overlap between two distinct entities. So let's dive straight in. So what is an acute nephritic syndrome? We already saw this. In a nephritic syndrome, there is going to be an inflammation of the glomerular filtration barrier. Patients present with a non-nephrotic proteinuria less than 3 grams per day. Patients will have a glomerular hematuria with an active urinary sediment. Patients will have hypertension, edema, and there may be a rise in creatinine. And if this syndrome occurs very rapidly and if it is very quickly progressive, then we refer to it as a rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis, and the pathology is that of crescents. So pathologically we call it a crescentic glomerulonephritis. Now let us look at the different conditions which fall under this category. So the post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis is the prototype of an acute nephritic syndrome.